What is going on, guys? Spartan D here, and today this has been a video that's been asked for a while, and I don't really have a reason for why it's been put off for so long. It just kind of has been. But without further ado, we will get into the rares of this game. And why not start off with the best one in Solveig? Now I know it says, SR, but if you play this game, you know that she's a rare. But you can evolve her using these evolution pieces that you find in the conflict zone shop, which is another reason to go ahead and do it, because it increases their stats, as you can see here. It's pretty nice. But Solveig is, for all intents and purposes, one of the best tanks that you'll likely get your hands on. Just straight up one of the best tanks that you're gonna end up getting. And she's free. Not only is she free, but the event where you're able to completely max out the rares is still active even now, and it'll end in like 4 days, maybe. Yeah, the 28th. They extended it. So even at the time of this video, you have about 4 days or so just to, get through the event and gather all those, wonderful resources. And then, you yourself can also get her to 6 stars and, add stuff as well to put into her talents, still do. So that in of itself is just, amazing, because there are actually some hidden gems here. Solveig being the biggest gem. The greatest well-kept secret that's not a secret. She's just insane. That's that's it. She's literally just insane. So at 5 out of 5 on the skill, her ultimate, which is high gear, I'll protect you, Flavia, because she has a thing for Flavia. It's kind of like the student-teacher bond that's like really strong, but like not in the literal sense, so don't take it literal. It is an analogy. But what she does is she grants all allies a shield and reduces their damage taken by 40% for 15 seconds. Energy cost is 5,100. Now, when you initially start, this will be something that you'll find to come on and every once in a while. But what you do is, give me a sec, because this is what beautiful knowledge was bestowed onto me. So you see this part right here. This part right here is called the Blood Rusher SMG. This is Lay's signature weapon, which you'll be able to farm later. But this right here allows her to essentially keep her ultimate up all of the time, and it increases her productivity by such a ridiculous amount. She is insanely good for that. Not only that, but every 6 seconds she'll boost she'll boost evasion for a random teammate by 14% for 10 seconds. So while this timer is going, she's also, and you can level it up as well. within that timer of 10 seconds, by the time it hits 6 seconds again, in between that 4-second period of time between the first two, she'll have given another random teammate that same amount. It stacks, by the way, so she could hit the same teammate twice, including herself, and give them 28% evasion for about 4 seconds before the other one runs out, and then within that 6-second time, 2 more seconds pass from that that second buff, and then it it refreshes. So for whatever reason she hits the same teammate, you could you have some very interesting things happen. But that alone is this is really this is very interesting. It's really good. She has 2 incredible skills right off the bat. She's good, man. I've basically been playing with her since launch. I just happened to notice, like, oh wait, this character is good. What? Interesting. I just set them off here. Oh man, some more SSR. And then I looked at the stuff, and I'm, as I'm playing with it more, I'm like, Tamura's kind of getting beat up. I really like that. And I eventually made the swap, looking at Solveig stuff, and I'm like, wow. And then I got hold of information like, oh yeah, by the way, Solveig is like one of the best tanks in the game. It's like, oh really? That makes sense, looking at her kit. More time went by, and then it's just like, oh yeah, no, she is she is quite good. No skin though. No skin, but that's fine. She also boosts her health, which helps her take hits and all that, so it's actually good for her. And then here, you also have some built-in damage reduction, which again is great for her. It's just when this is active, it just compiles with this, and then provided that you have your damage reduction built into her mech parts, which honestly you should, just to increase her overall survivability, because the main thing that you want her to do is to get her ultimate up. That's the main thing. So I would say you just build damage reduction, health. If you can manage to fit damage in there, you can, but it's not necessary whatsoever. Because if at any point she's the last one standing, unless it's like Solveig versus Solveig, and you happen to have more damage than unsupposed at that point, then it would matter. Just like in the PvP sense, whenever that is online for global, then I suppose it matters. But I honestly just think, the more defense, the more accuracy for one, damage reduction, HP, it's pretty much like the only stats that she needs, along with energy recharge, of course. You do all that, I'd say you're good. Solveig is just insane. She's really good. So here we have Esmerlda, and Esmerlda is a very good. She's another one of the best rare characters that you can get your hands on. And even though this energy cost is high, you can go ahead and give her a weapon, and then use this sooner. I'm not sure whether or not this. I'm actually not sure whether or not that effect is altered if you. Let's see here. So I'm doing this real quick just because I want to make sure. It's been so long since I've not had. Yeah, it's fine. This is still active no matter what. The mech is just, you know, there. So yeah, you can give her the same weapon here, and then there's another weapon as well that I at the moment do not remember exactly what it is called. But you could just give her that weapon, do the same thing. The only difference is with her heal, it's not like, because with the description, right? It restores the targeted allies' health equal to 38.5% of the total damage. Meaning the damage that they've taken before they got healed is what they end up restoring. So basically, let's say, you know, a boss or, you know, one of the elite mobs ends up hitting you with a pretty strong attack, and one of your units gets, you know, chunked out pretty hard. Well, then this comes into play. She heals them for that amount, and it's a pretty good heal. It's a pretty good heal. Is it anything spectacular? No, but it'll definitely get you until you get better healers. Esmerlda is definitely one of those where she helps quite a bit. He helps quite a bit. The thing with this is, even with, you know, that in the way that it quote unquote works, because I've just used the heal and it's, you know, decent. Is, you know, there's a set amount, it seems like, whether you take damage or not, it's just a set amount. So even with this, it's still really good. And then she has an attack boost, which I'm not sure that, you know, it's needed, but at least they're consistent with it, in where she deals more damage when her HP is below a certain threshold, and it reduces damage taken, which it helps, especially if you double up, you know, Solveig and Esmerlda. But it's not really too many occasions where you'd be doing something like that, just because, you know, that's a slot that you could have for a utility unit of some sort. So all in all, I'd say she's a pretty darn good unit. There's not too much to get into, really. She's just really good. She's a really good healing option, especially like even at this point, just because the only option is Esmerlda, another unit that we're about to touch on right here, and Brittany, and we'll get to her in a bit. Her kit is, you know, interesting. Snowy, you know, you have to roll the dice and being able to get that heal, but the most consistent is in a, you know, super rare and Smiley, if you manage to get her, where she's basically healing. she's healing team, and with her mech suit, it gets even better. But even with just this here, it's pretty incredible. Her heals are like, she's the best healer that you're gonna get your hands on, without a doubt. Even, you know, on the other the other servers. So yeah, Esmerlda is pretty darn good. Now, as you can see here, I've, you know, invested into Brittany a bit, you know, early on, but then I found better, and so she kind of, you know, she pretty quickly got rotated out, but she is a very nice option. She's more so like a buffer than she is you know, a designated tank, because she doesn't have a taunt, she doesn't have a special talent. She mainly just buffs the team and gives them lifesteal in a you know, she reduces the damage taken, which is like, it's nice, but it's not, it's nothing crazy by itself is the thing. Like, you have to build damage reduction on her, and she actually becomes, you know, a pretty decent option if you manage to get some damage reduction on her, as well as, you know, some attack, mainly for like herself. It's a weird one where you want damage reduction and you would like some stats to support that, and you would also at the same time like some, you know, some damage, like, you know, the damage increase, maybe some attack just for scaling purposes, and then crit damage and crit rate, which is like weird for you know, what's supposed to be a tank, but she's not really a tank. But what she does is she, you know, she calls down the assortment, you know, takes the trees. She boosts damage for all that, the allies, all your allies, and that increases, you know, for 15 seconds. And the energy cost isn't, you know, the most egregious, because of the fact that, you know, you can use that specific part and put it on her. The blood rush you can just throw on her, and, you know, have this active pretty often. And that is also important because she can restore allies, basically get lifesteal equal to, you know, this amount of their damage dealt, not her damage, but their damage, for 10 seconds every 15 seconds. So it's like 5 seconds of downtime, and this does get better as you level it up. I just haven't had a reason to, because again, you know, I found better. But Brittany is definitely she's definitely a good unit. She's definitely one of the standout units in the rarity class for sure. The health is nice again, the damage, you know, taken is nice. And I think because she has health, you'd probably just want damage reduction and like some HP. And if you don't, you know, put any defense into her, you're mainly focusing on her, you know, her damage, injury recharge, and like accuracy or something like that, then you probably have to get a lot more damage reduction in order for it to matter, if you don't have the defensive stats to, you know, go with it. And just because she has the, you know, health percentage here, it kind of makes sense to build into that as well for her. So yeah, overall she's, you know, really good. Next we have Lollar. So she has some pretty good damage in her ultimate, I'll say that out the off the bat. She actually has a higher damaging ultimate than, you know, most characters, which is pretty interesting. And she's also supported with, you know, some attack here. She reduces damage of the enemies which is, this would be more interesting if the number was higher. It's pretty low. It doesn't get that much higher, but it's pretty interesting. And then she has damage. She reduces damage taken. So her kit's kind of like, it's weird because of the fact that, like, looking at her, you know, these first two and then the next ones after, you would kind of want to build her for damage, because otherwise this ultimate isn't really worth too much, and she doesn't really have anything else in her kit that's spectacular, really. Like, if this was damage, it would be different, but attack, the scaling for it, it's good up to a certain extent, but then, like, you know, just damage, it ends up scaling harder, it seems like. So it's a weird one. Again, putting, you know, same thing, just to get her ultimate up, probably give her, you know, blood rush or something. If there is something different, you know, you guys feel free to let me know. But yeah, I would say I don't dislike her. She's definitely, you know, of the better. She's on the better end of the rares, but not the, you know, it definitely goes down in productivity after, you know, the first few that we went over. So yeah, you know, Lollar's definitely, she's definitely something. And as you can see here, Neplim, which is one of my favorite design characters. I like the design, because I've said it. I said the reason why on stream, but she deals some interesting damage to nearby enemies. Now, I have not played with Neplim, so I don't know exactly how. It doesn't say whether or not it's a multi-hit or not, and usually it does if it is. Or there's like some indication that there's a multi-hit. But she, you know, has an attack boost. She increases damage taken by all enemies, which is nice because Smiley also has that, and it's, you know, active all the time, so that's, you know, pretty good. But she also has, you know, more going on than just that. And then she just randomly has, you know, damage reduction, which I think it's weird. This isn't like, this is kind of where we get into the space of like, these are for their class. This unit is solid, right? But when you start getting into the other units and, you know, the other tiers and just like their kits, really just the kits, like mainly focusing on the kits, and then, you know, nothing else. What else would you be comparing this to? Hers is pretty bare. The damage number, it doesn't, you know, go up that much. It's she's okay, and I would say the main reason being that, you know, she increases the damage that the enemy will take. But outside of that, there's not much to talk about. Again, you know, we went over why the attack boost isn't that great. And if you don't think that, you know, simply having this is, you know, if you think that's enough, go ahead and take a look at Ayakuju's kit, and then, you know, if you've seen gameplay of her, or, you know, play with her, let me know how you feel again about, you know, just a flat attack boost and nothing else supporting it. It ends up not mattering at all. Like, the damage is really low. But I do like her design. And here we have an example of, you know, a multi-hit ulti, and it's specifying that it does so in Xime, who is you know, another interesting design character. And the damage number is, it's alright. She doesn't have a unique talent. None of the rares that we've went over thus far have any unique talents. But she boosts her crit chance, and then she reduces the accuracy of enemies by, like, the numbers here is really that's really what unfortunately makes these, you know, unique effects not matter, is because the number is so incredibly low, and then she just has damage reduction. So she's not really, she doesn't really do anything outside of this, and this doesn't matter much because the number itself is just so incredibly low. It's not really, you know, worth too much here. She has an incredibly high energy cost. It's like abysmally, it's abysmal how high that is. So yeah, no real redeeming qualities for her, just not. So here you have Veronica, who, you know, nice design for a character. Kind of the same thing, except, you know, hers is a bit more, you know, she's a decent support. I do like her, the way her kit is set up more than, you know, the other rares, simply because, you know, she has attack here and she's getting a little bit more here, so she'll, you know, do a little bit more damage. And then evasion, you know, that's alright depending on, you know, what team comp you have. Veronica is actually not too bad, but again, like, just simply because it's, you know, attack and like not really much else. Like, if it was boost damage, I'd be looking at her a little bit differently. But this here is, you know, it's, when you're starting out, it's good enough. When you're starting out, it's good enough, and you're gonna start out with Veronica. So I'd say, you know, it'll get the job done until you find something better, for sure. For sure. Here we have Audrey, who has a pretty interesting design, where she, you know, her ultimate, she unleashes Scheers, dealing, you know, a set amount of damage over multiple hits to enemies within a small range in front of her. Now, when it says over multiple hits, it means this damage amount over the course of, you know, that duration where, you know, the ultimate is out. I will say the saving grace is that the energy cost is really low, so you could, you know, spam that pretty hard with the, you know, the right weapon. She's getting a, you know, an attack boost. She's increasing damage taken by the enemies, or, you know, that's pretty good. And then she has a health boost here. Again, she has, you know, this is pretty good. It's you know, for this, you know, specific area, I suppose. Like, if they ever do something similar to, like, how, off the top of my head, how Danmachi Memoria Freeze does it, where, you know, the rares have their, you know, own special arena, and you can compete that way. If it was, you know, something along those lines, she would probably see play. But I think outside of, like, the beginning, once you know, get better units, you just kind of, you know, leave her where she is. But she again, her kit's a little, you know, a bit better designed, so it's not one that I dislike by any means. It's pretty, you know, pretty decent. Here we have Kristina. Now, oh yeah, that's right, I do have her skin. We have Kristina, and she covers the battlefield with bombs. And when it says the battlefield, it mainly means like the the entire area. So Veronica, I'm sorry, not Veronica, Kristina has some pretty good ultimate. The energy cost is ridiculous though. That's the thing. Like it'll be in a targeted area, and it might as well just be like the entire field, because of like the radius and where it's hitting is pretty massive. She gets an attack boost. She boosts health for ally units, which is, you know, an interesting skill to have. And then she also boosts damage. So like these two in tandem actually, you know, they actually end up mattering. It's kind of it's interesting that she would get health here when she has attack and a damage boost here, which, you know, helps her overall damage. But then like this is more like a this is a support skill going in the opposite direction of her kit, which is unfortunate. But I don't dislike Kristina. She has some, you know, it's pretty nicely designed. Like again, in the scenario where, you know, there is a arena for, you know, specific rarities, I think Kristina would be one of those units where I would, you know, recommend using her. Actually, you know, not too bad, actually. And next we have Memay. Again, one of these characters where their ultimate their ultimate seems to be the main draw for them. And she basically fires, you know, she fires, you know, these lasers in, you know, whatever direction. So hopefully, you know, you're aiming this properly if you're using her. She also boosts accuracy for, you know, all ally units, which if the number wasn't so low, this would be nice. But then she has this where her normal attacks that hit enemies have a 10% chance of increasing the enemy's damage taken, and that increases. It does not stack, but it doesn't, you know, it says that it doesn't also say that it does not refresh, so it likely refreshes. What is going on? Okay. What in the world? Okay, well, I just accidentally upgraded. Great. I'm never going to use this unit, so that's fantastic. The game had a bit of a hiccup. But here's the thing. Here is the thing. This right here boosts damage and attack rate for all ally units, and then that goes up. This is honestly one of the best skills that I've seen on a rare that's not like Solveig. Memay's kit is like actually set up pretty nice. If instead of this she had boost, you know, damage for all ally units, coupled with this, I would actually, you know, recommend her to put on, you know, your team if you're, you know, quote unquote struggling or something, or you just starting out and you get Memay. Memay is actually one of the higher priority units, I would say. She actually has she has a solid kit. If these numbers were, you know, increase and they changed this and, you know, increase that as well, I'd say she'd be, you know, pretty incredible, to be honest. But yeah, Memay is actually one of the better ones. Believe it or not. Her kits, I like her kit. And here we have Millyna. And excuse me. he hops out of his mech, drops a bomb on one enemy, single target. But it has like a splash effect. So it's interesting in that sense. And then the percentage is actually not too bad. It goes up quite a bit. Energy cost is, you know, acceptable. It's passable. He also boosts crit chance, and then he boosts crit chance for ally units, including himself. But then he has evasion, which, you know, seeing this, you would think the last one would be crit damage, and if it was, I'd say, you know, it's a really solid kit. It's not too, you know, much to say about that, but unfortunately, you just have evasion for some reason. It doesn't really make sense. You know, if you have crit here, why wouldn't you put crit damage there? And it's a rare, so it's not like, you know, that is one of the units that you end up getting. But it's just not, you know, what it could be. Here we have Roxanne. Now, Roxanne immediately stands out from all the other rares and pretty much most of the units in the game, because her kit is very well designed. If Roxanne, you know, if she was a higher rarity and she had these abilities, they would definitely be way better than what they are. But that's, you know, not exactly an excuse, since this game doesn't really go off of rarity. Example being Solveig, the best example. But she gives a barrier that reduces damage taken by a maximum of 16% of the max attack for 15 seconds. Now, when it says max attack, it doesn't specify whether that's hers or the, you know, the ally who is getting the barrier. I imagine that it's the ally that's getting the barrier. It's just not, you know, said too well here. Energy cost is incredibly low, so you can get this active like incredibly soon, especially when you give her the right gear. She can just spam this, and you put this in tandem with Solveig. This you end up getting quite a bit of survivability. So you could do something like a Solveig, a Roxanne, a Smiley, and then, you know, your best DPS that can, you know, stand on their own. Say, you know, Tasia, and she won't need anything else, and she could just carry and honestly just not take any damage, which is pretty insane. So that like this skill alone just activates so much. Again, she has like one of the better design kits, not just for, you know, her rarity class, but just in general. And here she just gets, you know, attack boost, which helps out with this. Otherwise, I would say it's not really like anything to, you know, write home about. But the fact that it helps her ultimate out is really good. Now here is what sets her apart from just about every other unit in the game. When an ally dies, when they're out of commission, she revives them immediately with 3% of their health restored. Now, not only does it only activate once per battle, But if it's some sort of like multi-hit and then this procs, they could just die again, which is, you know, unfortunate. If it gave invulnerability for a few seconds, she would honestly be one of like one of the units that you would have to consider on your team, depending on like the content that you're going into. And then here she just boosts health. But it's really Divine Faith and True Believer that are, you know, it really does make her insane. She's definitely one of the best rares that you can, if you were to, you know, take some time to invest in. I wouldn't even be mad at anybody who, you know, considers Roxanne. Here we have Mama. Yeah, what's good? She also has damage reduction, but it's in like a specific area. So it's kind of weird. The energy cost is like low, unless I'm misunderstanding that. She also has, you know, attack, and then she reduces damage taken for all ally units. So this like maternal row of nurturing field is actually pretty nice because of the fact that when you have both of these active, and this does increase by, you know, quite a bit, so you get some pretty decent damage reduction here. And she also has health. Mama has a pretty good kit. It could be, you know, it could help to be a bit more support oriented, but like these two together is really what, you know, makes it a overall sound and solid kit. She's pretty good. Definitely better than a good amount of the enemies. Excuse me, not enemies, the pilots we've come across so far. We have Keyla, where she summons a laser shooting robot. So it's basically a familiar that you summon, or a summon, depending on what, you know, games you play. And it attacks enemies in a line in front of her. The energy cost is pretty abysmal. If you don't have an idea of what Keyla does, and you happen to have Nova, they have a similar behaving ultimate. She boosts her attack. She reduces attack of enemies. It says damage aura, but it reduces the attack. That's weird. And she has evasion, so there's nothing really here to write home about for her. It's just kind of like all over the place. This is like the only interesting thing about her. And here, if you let's go Nova. She summons. She has summons as well, and you know they last for a certain amount of time. They deal, you know, similar damage, but her attack speed is increased, and when you get her mech, they get added effects. So it's not just, you know, this you know, set percentage here. It actually ends up, you know, those bots end up scaling the summons off, you know, from Nova. So it becomes that, you know, pretty insane. But, you know, Keyla has the unfortunate version, but, you know, it makes sense considering, you know, where she is, what she is. Not all the units can be winners. Just not just not how game works, any game really. So here we have Eggy and Peggy. They boost damage for, you know, all allied units, and the energy cost is really low. That's just a really nice ultimate, and the fact that it costs practically nothing is great. They have their kit minus like the health boost this kit is just really nice. They're a really nice unit, honestly. It's not too much to say about them. They're really nice for what they do. They also have quite a few different skins. They also have their own Vow skin, which is interesting. Married twins, but you know. Yeah, Eggy and Peggy are good. They are good. Like I said, these two together, especially with this, is just, you know, really nice. Definitely higher on the priority list for, you know, rares. We were looking at just specifically rares. Now, Scheer, she has an interesting, she has an interesting ultimate, because it is similar in how it works with Alexa. Where's Alexa? There's Alexa. She's actually older. I don't have her built up. But Alexa has a similar effect. Be it hers is, you know, much more overloaded. Alexa is actually like one of the better units in the game. Like, yeah, she's really good. But here as this, the energy cost is pretty low. The damage on the ultimate doesn't really go up that much. She has attack here. She reduces damage of all enemies, which is like weird. And then she has a health boost. So again, just another one of those where they just slap, you know, a couple of abilities on the unit and call it a day. There's nothing really impressive about Scheer. There's nothing that, you know, complements each other. So here we have Bathory. He invokes a set of magic tomes, firing rapidly in single direction and dealing a total of 909 damage, and the entry cost is pretty low, and that damage increases by this. So right out the gate, her ultimate is like pretty darn good, but she just gets, you know, damage boost here. But she also has a global buff for the team, getting boosted attack for them. But then she just has, you know, damage reduction randomly. But I don't dislike it. Bathory's actually pretty good. I like her. I like her kit overall. She doesn't have a skin. She also doesn't have a unique talent. Again, like there's no rares that have uniques. Which here we have Jasmine. Now, Jasmine is interesting, and she has, you know, about she actually has like one of the best wedding skins, I would say. It's incredibly nice. But here she's returns along a perfect shot, dealing, you know, damage to enemies in the line, and the energy cost isn't, you know, too bad here. She boosts her attack. She reduces evasion of all enemies, which is interesting. And then she boosts, you know, she boosts evasion for herself. So her kit's not, there's really nothing here. But the thing is, Jasmine actually ends up getting a mech, and she ends up getting like a rework of her kit. So she ends up being one of those where she's a sleeper. She ends up being, you know, pretty darn good, actually. But like, you know, as far as like the rares go, she ends up being like one of the best rares when she does, you know, get her her reworking her mech. But until then, she's, you know, not really one I would say to invest into. But she is one that I would say to look at after she does get those upgrades. Because she is pretty interesting. And I do believe that's, yeah, she is the last one. Very fitting too. Because she ends up being better than, you know, I would say most of the rares, minus the Solveig. And, you know, maybe you could debate a few others, but she ends up being like the second best rare to Solveig. But yeah, those are the rares in the game so far. I don't know if any more release, but I do believe that's it. So with that being said, that concludes our analysis of the rares in the game thus far. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like button and leave feedback what you enjoyed. If there's any additional information that you may have regarding them, your experiences with them, if you have played with, you know, any of them. If you didn't like the video, that's fine too. But with that being said, I will see all of you in the next video.